Though today most sociologists consider social stratification one of the most important areas of study. This has not always been the case. In fact, the importance of this subject in understanding society and human behavior has been widely recognized by sociologists only in the past 50 years at most. We find two most prominent modern functional theories of social stratification. The first of these was published by Kingsley Davis and Wilbert Murray in 1945, somewhat amended by Kingsley Davis in 1948, and has come to be known simply as the Davis and Murray theory of social stratification. The theory was logically constructed to show why social stratification and inequality are positively functional and therefore necessary in all but the simplest human societies. The second theory is from the more abstract and general functional perspective of Talcott Parsons. This theory does not contradict that of Davis and Murray, but its focus is on social order more generally and the function of social stratification for the overall maintenance of social order. We shall also focus on the writings of Ian Luhmann and Lenski. Ian Luhmann, a systems theory. More recently, Ian Luhmann has tried to develop a theory of social system that deals with the basic problem of social sciences. He has tried to go beyond the existing explanations of the phenomenon of social stratification and has offered an analytically synthesized view of the subject. A sociological theory of society, according to Luhmann, must incorporate into it a general theory of systems, a general theory of evolution, and a general theory of communication. They have to be seen as being mutually interdependent. Similarly, a general theory of society has to go beyond the dichotomies of stability or change, structure or process, consensus or conflict. A theory of conflict must also provide a theory of consensus. A theory of processes must also explain structures and so forth. Much of the existing literature on social stratification or social inequality tends to deal with the phenomenon from a moralistic perspective, that is, by looking at it in terms of being good or bad. While the Marxist scholars and the conflict theorists tend to look at it in terms of domination and exploitation and hence view it as being essentially bad. The functionalist theory, by talking about the societal needs that stratification system fulfills, end up justifying it. Luhmann looks at the phenomenon of social stratification from an evolutionary perspective. He has argued that it would be misleading to focus exclusively on the issue of subordination, domination, or exploitation, or to seek to justify it by invoking the unifying functions that it performs for the society. Stratification was initially a result of growth in the size and complexity of society. As the society grew in size and scale, it became impossible for all the members of a society to interact with each other at personal or face-to-face level. The process of social communication required a selective intensifier. Stratification provided the way out. It differentiated society into unequal subsystems. While inequality became a norm at the level of social system and its interaction with environment, equality became the guiding principle within the subgroup, a norm regulating communication and social interaction among the members of a particular strata. The process of differentiation that begins with the growth and complexity of society initially gives rise to a segmental division in society. Caste system is a classical example of such a segmental division. The role differentiation at this stage is at line level of families and each segment is a closed stratum. However, as the process of differentiation progresses, it gives way to an open class-like system of stratification that is continually reproduced by the effects of functional differentiation. Gerhard Lenski, Power and Privilege. Among the scholars discussed in this lesson, it is in the works of Gerhard Lenski that one finds a more systematic attempt at developing a synthesis of the different theories of social stratification. In the introductory chapter of his well-known book, Power and Privilege, A Theory of Social Stratification, Lenski clarifies that his attempt at developing a synthesized theory of social stratification focuses on three important questions. First, he focuses on the causes of stratification rather than its consequences, as has been done by most others. Second, as is suggested in the title of his focus, his main focus is on power and privilege rather than prestige. Finally, he equates social stratification with the distributive process in human societies, the process by which scarce goods and values are distributed. Historically speaking, the question of distribution and social inequality assume significance only when the societies begin to produce surplus, that is, more than what is required for the survival of the given population. The core question for Lenski is who gets what and why. His answer is rather simple and clear. The distribution of rewards in a society is a function of the distribution of power. This answer is counterposed to the answer suggested by the structural functionalists who explain the differential distribution of rewards high terms of functional needs of the social system. Though his answer to the question of who gets what and why appears to be rather simple, his overall theory of social stratification is quite an elaborate one. Lenski has offered a multidimensional view of the working of the distribution system that determines the structure of power and privilege in society. Structure of the distribution system is made up of three types of units: individuals, classes, and class systems. Each of these is linked to the other and represents a different level of organization within a distributed system. For Lenski, work at the basic level of the system, but they constitute units within classes. Classes in turn are the units within class systems. Lenski's notion of class, however, is very different from that Karl Marx or Max Weber. While Marx and Weber define class primarily in economic terms and treat it as being a part of the economic system of the society, Lenski uses the term in a very broad sense and emphasizes more on its political dimension. As mentioned above, for Lenski, stratification is a multidimensional phenomenon and therefore he rejects a single-dimensional definition of class. Human societies are stratified in various ways, and each of these alternative modes of stratification provides a basis for different conception of class. Thus, classes are not merely aggregation of individuals who share common economic status in society or a common position in the structure of production. There can be different types of classes, that is, political classes, ethnic classes, and prestige classes. He defines class as an aggregation of persons in society who stand in a similar position with respect to some form of power, privilege, or prestige. However, he clarifies that if one has to explain the phenomenon of social stratification or answer the question who gets what and why, power and class must be our chief concern. Prestige and privilege are largely determined by the distribution of power. By power, Linsky means all those individuals who have access to the institutional sources of power or who have the legitimate right or capability of using force. Thus, in his definition of class, the most crucial element is that of power. However, the manner in which he defines power and class, a single individual can be member of more than one class. For example, in contemporary Indian society, an individual can be a member of the middle class with respect to property holdings, a member of the working class by virtue of his job in a factory, and a member of subordinate ethnic class in terms of his being a Dalit by caste. Each of the major roles he occupies, as well as his status in the property hierarchy, influences his chances of obtaining the things he seeks in life, and thus each places him in a specific class. This tendency towards multidimensionality of class statuses, according to Linsky, becomes more pronounced as one moves from technologically primitive societies to technologically advanced societies. He further argues that every unequal or stratified system has a potential of conflict. The members of every class share common interests with one another, and these shared interests constitute a potential basis of hostility toward other classes. The members of a given class have a vested interest in protecting and increasing the values of their common resources and in reducing the value of the resources of opposite classes. However, he does not claim that classes always act together or that they are aware of their common interests. Nor are they always hostile to opposite classes. A given class structure spells out the possibilities that could be realized, but there is nothing inevitable about them. The final element in his theory of social stratification is the concept of class systems. A class system, according to Linsky, is defined as a hierarchy of classes ranked in terms of some single criterion. However, there is no single class system. He argues that once we recognize the fact that power has diverse bases and that these are not always reducible to some single common denominator, we are forced to think in terms of series of class hierarchies and class systems. The Davis and Murray theory. The Davis and Murray theory clearly and simply outlined the functional view of social stratification as necessary to meet the needs of complex social systems. In other words, from a perspective that considers society as something like an organism, the theory argued that this organism has needs that must be met if it is to remain healthy. Among these needs is for the most important positions or jobs in the society to be staffed by the most qualified and competent people. Social stratification is considered a mechanism that ensures that the need is met. The following 7 points provide a basic summary of the theory. Turing, 1953. Certain positions in any society are functionally more important than others and require special skills to fill them. Only a limited number of people in any society have the talents that can be trained into the skills appropriate to these positions. The conversion of talents into skills involves a training period during which sacrifices of one kind or another are made by those undergoing the training. In order to induce the talented people to undergo these sacrifices and acquire the training, their future positions must carry an inducement value in the form of a differential, that is privileged and disproportionate access to the scarce and desired rewards the society has to offer. The scarce and desired goods consist of the rights and prerequisites attached to or built into the positions, and can be classified into those things that contribute to sustenance and comfort, humor and diversion, and self-respect and ego expansion. This differential access to the basic rewards of the society has a consequence the differentiation of the prestige and esteem various strata acquire. It may be said to constitute, along with the rights and prerequisites, institutionalized social inequality, that is stratification. Therefore, social inequality among different strata in the amounts of scarce and desired goods and the amounts of prestige and esteem they receive is both positively functional and inevitable in any society. At face value, the Davis and Morey theory of stratification appears a simple, clear, and valid explanation of inequality and social stratification in industrial, if not all societies. In a sense, it is a labor market model analyzing the supply and demand of labor as it relates to rewards for labor. In short, when the supply of skilled labor is low in relation to the amount of labor needed, the employer, in Davis and Murray's perspective, the society will be required to pay more for this labor. But this Davis and Murray view of this labor market model is flawed, and several social scientists have revealed other problems of logic and omission over the years. The Davis and Murray theory doesn't have to be rejected on every point, but it does need to be amended in several respects. Parsons' functional theory of social stratification. Compared with the Davis and Murray theory, Talcott Parsons' work is much more general and abstract. One of the central figures in modern American sociology, Parsons developed a theory that is often considered the most important functional statement on all aspects of society ever made. But as stated, his work is so abstract and highly theoretical that few precise empirical predictions can be made or tested from it, as Parsons admitted in 1977. Nonetheless, Parsons' work has been highly influential in carrying on the tradition of Durkheim and the Warner School of Social Stratification in American sociology. In this section, we will consider briefly the major components of Parsons' theory, then criticisms of this theory, and finally, some research attempting to test the validity of some of his ideas. Parsons argued that two sets of concepts are most important in helping us understand social stratification. In his first article on social stratification in 1940, Parsons wrote that central for the purposes of this discussion is the differential evaluation in the moral sense of individuals as units. In his subsequent works on social stratification in 1949, 1953, and 1970, this theme was continued. What Parsons meant by this, as in the Warner School, is that status or honor is the most important dimension of social stratification. People are evaluated and ranked by others in terms of how well they live up to the dominant values in the society. Whatever these values may be, this means that there will always be a hierarchy of status honor in every society. Parsons recognized wealth and power differences, of course, but for him, these are by definition secondary. Writing of wealth, Parsons stated, in spite of much opinion to the contrary, it is not a primary criterion, seen in terms of the common value system. Its primary significance is a symbol of achievement. Parsons arrived at the same conclusion as Davies and Murray. But for Parsons, the common value system helps ensure that the functionally most important roles are filled by competent people through their status striving. In order to specify the placement of people in the stratification system, Parsons had to rank which roles or tasks are the most respected to the least respected in the society, which involved getting more specific about the dominant value system. Tackling this task, Parsons first offered his description of the four major functional subsystems within a society that are related to the four major functional prerequisites that all societies must meet if they are to survive. That is, all societies must solve problems of adaptation of the environment, goal attainment, integration, and latent pattern maintenance, or for short, AGIM. The primary concrete institutions that usually perform these functional prerequisites for a society are, in order, the economy, the state, the legal system, or sometimes religion, and the family, schools, and cultural institutions. It will be helpful at this point to recall our earlier discussion of the organic analogy of society. Like body organs, each of these types of institutions is said to be serving a function for the health of the total organism that is society. For example, it is the task of economic institutions to extract resources from the environment and produce needed goods and services. The task of the state or polity is to define goals and provide direction toward these collective goals. Institutions such as law and religion help family, and institutions such as education perform pattern maintenance through training and socializing individual members of the society and serving their personal needs so that they can be functioning members of the society. The importance of the proceeding in the understanding social stratification, Parsons claimed, is twofold. The different tasks of these various institutions lead them to stress differing values or pattern variables. Societies differ with respect to which of the four sets of institutions, adaptive, goal attainment, integration, or latent pattern maintenance, is primary. In a society where one set of institutions is primary, say goal attainment or the polity, the common value system will be more heavily weighed toward the values most consistent with this institutional stress. Thus, the individuals who best live up to the values shaped by the primary institution or institutions will receive more status, as well as the secondary rewards that are tied to high status like wealth. Let us summarize these very abstract ideas. A person's place in the status hierarchy stratification system is determined by the moral evaluation of others. This moral evaluation is made in terms of a common value system. The common value system is shaped by the institution that is given primary stress in the society. The institutional stress coming from the particular historical and environmental circumstances of the society. Thus, people who best live up to these values or ideas will receive, in addition to high status, other rewards such as a high income and wealth. It is also important to note that authority is attained through an individual's functional position in the occupational structure, which of course is gained through status attainment, as you can see in the following figure. By way of contrast, Parsons would argue that a country such as China today stresses goal attainment or political institutions over economic institutions, though, of course, China is trying to modernize through changing this. The values in China, following the stress on goal attainment or the polity, are weighed toward leadership ability and commitment to political ideals. The people who most typify these values would receive high status, advancement in the political bureaucracy, and secondary rewards such as wealth and high income. A similar description would be given for the society stressing, say, religious institutions and values, such as Iran since its revolution in 1979, or monks in the closed environment of a monastery. Parsons' view does not contradict that of Davis and More. Only the stress on moral evaluation is different. Parsons still maintains that the most important positions in the society will be most highly rewarded, with status first and wealth as a secondary reward. What Parsons has done, however, is specify more clearly what the most important positions will be given a particular institutional stress in the society. Conclusion. In this lesson and the preceding one, we examined some of the leading theories of social stratification. We have noted some of the value in functional theories, but for the most part found them quite limited. The general task of any theory, is to evaluate the many factors influencing a phenomenon, such as social stratification, in order to detect which of the factors or set of factors provides the clearest explanation. It is then the task of social scientists to examine the logic of each theory, balance and weigh the evidence put forth as support for each theory, and make a decision as to which of the competent theories or group of theories is most useful. However, the task is even more complex when we find that some theories answer some questions best, while other theories are best in answering other questions.